What is up, everybody? It's Dr. Vibe here, host and producer of the award-winning Dr. Vibe Show, the home of Epic Conversations. I'm the host of Epic Conversations, 2018 Innovation Award winner given out by the Canadian Ethnic Media Association. And once a month, I host online conversations for fathers that are co-sponsored by Dad Central, Canada's national fatherhood organization, and Dove Men Care. And as always, I'd like to say you're blessed, highly favored, a magnet for miracles, and a solution for someone's problem. You know the Dr. Vibe Show loves bringing on new friends. So we have a new friend coming on, but him and I have known each other for a while. And after what we went through today, it's miracles that we're here right now. I'm going to share with you tonight Emmanuel Mels. He is the executive director for the Network for the Advancement of Black Communities. This gentleman has been one of my key amplifiers in 2020 because when the year started, I don't think we really knew each other, but I'm going to bring him on now because he's done so many wonderful things for especially Black nonprofit organizations in Canada. And he continues, along with his team, Denise and others, to really want to have the best for Black Canada. And I've been blessed to get to know him better, his highs, his lows. He shares them with me. You're not going to find out any of the lows. You got to get to know him and I better if you find out any of the lows. But it's we're here tonight, and there's an epic conference going on Wednesday and Thursday. And yes, it's targeted to Black Canadians, but you know what? It's for everybody, not just Black Canadians, not just Black people, but people in general. So we're going to be here chatting about it tonight. The name of the conference is the Advancing the Fight Against Anti-Black Racism Awareness, Analysis, and Action. It's happening on the 21st and 22nd, which is this week, from 12 noon to basically 4:30 p.m. Eastern time. But you know what? I'm out of breath. It's time for Emmanuel to say hello. Emmanuel, how are you? And finally, we got you.
Well, thanks a lot. I'm happy to surrender, Dr. Vibe.
Surrender.
The feeling is mutual. I'm honored to be on your show and always inspired by your energy. Endless energy, and so humbled to be able to get your support in our collective endeavor to indeed support Black communities, especially during this pandemic. So I'm happy to be here to talk about this conference that we're organizing on Wednesday and Thursday this week, October 21st and 22nd. And as you indicated, it's a conference for everyone. Not just Black Canadians or people of African descent. And it's about awareness, it's about analysis, it's about, more importantly, action in terms of advancing the fight against anti-Black racism. So delighted to be here and happy to share this moment with you and everyone else.
Well, thank you so much. Don't want to spend too much time, but always when I have new friends on the Dr. Vibe Show, I'd like them to share a little bit about their story. We won't get into it too deep because the conference is the main spotlight, but I think it's always important for my audience to know a little bit about you and how you came from little Emmanuel to Emmanuel now.
Okay, I'm a father of three. Manab, Milen, Matabel. Always as a proud father, my children that I mentioned always ground me, and my wife, Leah Solomon, who is also a rock in our family. Originally, I came in this country about 27 years ago. Before that, I came a couple of years earlier, just briefly to present a paper at the University of Toronto. I'm a former marine ecologist. I have done a lot of, in my young adult professional life, a lot of marine sciences, both teaching and research in tropical marine waters. So I often talk about ecosystems because of that background, which allowed me to travel in many tropical seas and oceans over the years. But in Canada, I think my journey has been quite interesting. As a new Canadian and as a new person of African descent, I've been able to immerse myself into the civic life of this country, contribute as I can, volunteering in a number of areas, especially around mental health promotion and suicide prevention, around domestic violence or intimate partner violence, helping seniors and refugees, mostly of people of African descent. Professionally, I have had the opportunity of working in different organizations like OCASI, like Family Service Toronto, Lawrence Heights Community Health Center, which is now Unison, and at United Way of Greater Toronto, where I had the opportunity to really work with my peers and sector leaders in advancing innovative ways of really looking at organizations and communities differently. Yeah? Whether it's supporting the work around the strong neighborhood strategy or capacity building or evaluation or measurement or leadership development. One of my really joys during this journey was to really work with a group of dynamic young leaders to launch City Leaders, which is the Creative Institute for Toronto Young Leaders, which graduated about 150 young leaders with a certificate in leadership many years ago, many of whom today are leading in interesting spaces in the city and beyond. My most recent engagement is at the moment I sit on the board of the Social Innovation Institute, on the board of recently joined the Institute of Change Leaders at Ryerson, and I continue advocating and volunteering in the area of community-based peace building because of my experience growing up in Eritrea and having a lifelong commitment to peace building and bridging. I'm in that area of peace leadership, peace building. And so I chair the International Leadership Association, the Peace Leadership member group. And in fact, our international conference is coming up in November around some of these issues. So that's briefly about me. 2 years ago, I came to work with amazing leaders in the Black community to create NABC, the Network for the Advancement of Black Communities, which is vision is to really build a strong, vibrant Black community sector, which I'm happy to talk about, but we don't have yet, that has a unity of purpose, that really exudes and pushes for Black excellence. And we do that by trying to work with governments and funders and Black community organizations and leaders, allies, foundations, by convening, pushing knowledge mobilization, service coordination, building capacity, doing research, but most importantly, and I'm going to touch about this in the context of the conference, is systems change. We want to really tackle, not just the symptoms of our problems, the tip of the iceberg, but the underlying cause. And that's why I think, when we talk about systems change, the most important ingredient there is actually learning together on how to push for that. And the conference, I'm hoping, will afford some of that. So taking a bit of time to give you a bit of my background, but that's it.
No, that's fantastic. And I'm already setting you up to come for another time because we're going to find out some more about that background. But I think to provide this conference some proper context, 2020 has been a very significant year.
Yes.
And I don't know if this conference would have happened if we hadn't gone through some of the events that we've gone through, the Black community in Toronto, in Canada. Can you give a little bit of a background before we really get into the conference? How, from your lens, what has the impact been 2020 on Black Canadians?
Oh, it's we cannot do anything of consequence or meaning without really pausing and being humbled by what has happened this year. This year is unprecedented. I mean, I'm a student of history. I love history, and when I look comparatively, we're talking about something of this scale and magnitude happening almost 100 years ago with the Spanish flu. So we are under unprecedented times, and the sad aspect of all this is that, the pandemic has actually laid bare the vulnerabilities that we already know of Black communities and main racialized communities in this country. And for us, I think in terms of the Black community, it's just like I keep reminding people, it's not of a similar scale, but something of a small shock similar to this to Black organizations happened in the 2008 and 2009 recession, when the funding cuts and the impact of the recession actually eroded significantly the capacity of many Black organizations and many racialized community organizations by literally taking away their capacity to remain viable and sustainable. Yeah. And so the fear today is that by many degrees of impact, if you want, there will be similar concern in terms of losing viability and sustainability of the Black community sector. Yeah. But on top of that, people talk about the second pandemic, which is the assault, the intensity of the assault of anti-Black racism that we have seen locally in this country and globally. So this double whammy, so to speak, has forced in us a big moment of pause to reflect and ask deep questions about where are we in this predicament. Yeah, because we knew that the socioeconomic trends, the systems trends for Black communities, whether it's education or child welfare or employment or health and any of the systems, for quite some time, almost generationally, they have not been trending positively for us. They have been trending negatively. Black youth unemployment is a good example. It's in this province it's more than twice the provincial average. So I think what the pandemic and the assault on anti-Black racism have done is, like, for me in my engagements on behalf of NABC with governments, funders, and community leaders, it's almost nothing is sacrosanct. Everything is up for discussion and renewal, so to speak. So it's almost like we were forced to put our cards on the table and say, why are we doing what we're doing? Can we do it better? And for example, we have seen, in this context, we have seen the federal and other levels of government doing things that they have never thought of doing for years, bending their own rules and practices in terms of really introducing new ways of doing business. And so, in a recent meeting that I hosted, I used this phrase: if there's a will, there's a way. And we have seen a will. When push comes to shove, actually all the actors in the picture, in the ecology, start, working together in different ways. So because of that, I think we always say in these moments that we don't need to tinker at the edges now. It's actually now the time for bold ideas and bold moves. So I think I'm hoping that at this conference, we'll have the opportunity to really have courageous but difficult conversations about the state of affairs.
Excellent. So let's get to the conference itself. Give us some background. How did it come about? Was it a long time in the making, or did 2020 bring the thought to have this conference?
Well, I mean, NABC, as you know, this network for the advancement of Black communities, in our role as a convener, immediately within a week that the pandemic started in March, we embarked on saying, okay, what's the adaptation that we have to do here? And going into that virtual space, but also quickly realizing that the pandemic is going to put Black organizations and communities actually further on the margins. So we pretty much moved fairly quickly, and we have been very helpful and part of this process. We've launched the Black Community and COVID-19 series, where we invited, and I think the first 2-3 months weekly, we have hosted these conversations by bringing leaders together. And in that space of Black community leaders, we have brought allies, we have brought government leaders to have, again, important conversations about the state of affairs, whether it's around data, around financial sustainability, the disproportionate impact on frontline staff in some of our communities and racialized communities, the importance of the intersection of looking at sexual orientation and issues of LGBTQ in the context of the pandemic. A number of thematic areas we have been exploring. So in doing that, we quickly realized that, we needed to have Black voices in those policy tables, whether it is federal, provincial, or cities or municipalities. We needed to find that pipeline to ensure that the voice was at the table. And to do that, we needed to really go out of our way to, quickly, so to speak, sharpen our capacity to host conversations. And I think NABC is grateful to the support that you and many have provided in this process. And by doing that, we were able to create some possibility for voices to be heard. Yeah. And out of these engagements, there was a realization that, when we did that report together with C Center for Black Young Professionals on the impact of COVID on Black community organizations, we spoke about this kind of trio, the need to really be ready to respond to the emergency, it's COVID emergency, the capacity to have Black community organizations access resources to respond to immediate needs, such as providing food access, supporting isolated seniors, dealing with counseling and mental health, and being able to operate virtually, all those immediate needs is one thing, but doing that without really having a line of sight to recovery, and then from recovery to start imagining what post-COVID might look like, was detrimental. So we looked at this model and said, okay, as we engage governments, as we engage funders, as we engage Black leaders and allies, how do we make sense of this moment? So we quickly advocated to make sure that dollars flew into Black community. And when we saw barriers, we didn't stop there. We brought together Black community leaders and governments and funders and say, okay, let's create a mechanism for addressing some of these barriers. Again, if there's a will, there's a way, and to some extent we have been able to do that, and we continue advocating. So in doing this, there is a realization that the Anti-Racism Directorate at the Ontario government, which is mandated by legislation to do certain things around advancing anti-racism and around the collection of race-based data and so on, they saw our opportunity of working with us in delivering this conference. And I'm happy to talk about the structure of how we came about doing this. But today, a couple of days away from this conference, and after at least about 3-4 months of working hard with the help of so many community-based leaders, we are at a stage to launch the conference on Wednesday, to be able to delve on some of these important things that are of interest to all of us.
Wonderful. What are some, was it easy? Because I'm involved as one of the moderators, and I see the depth of people you've been able to get. Was it an easy ask when you put it out to people?
To tell you honestly, it is. It is, because what we have been able to do, we have been able to demonstrate, and this is not just something that is attributable to us. Collectively, as Black community, we have been able to demonstrate that there is a bench strength here within the Black community. We have a strong, and we can talk about challenge and problems, but I see the world from an asset-based perspective, from gifts and talents that we have. We have been able to actually bring the strengths of the Black ecosystem to the table, so to speak. And in doing that, people recognize that, yes, we need to be able to put a emphasis on anti-Black racism. Anti-racism is important, but we're pausing in this today to say, let's talk about anti-racism in the context of anti-Black racism. And I think the interest and ability of the various players within the Black ecosystem to come together to work. We're so grateful to the advice and support provided by the conference planning committee, composed of various amazing leaders from across the province. That allowed us to, with the intensity of their engagement, almost meeting bi-weekly and giving us their support and their advice and going out of their way to work with myself and my team, put us in a position of strength here. And I think what we proposed here, we're bringing a conference of, this is not an academic conference. This is not a conference of coming and rehashing the knowable, so to speak, or what we already know about the data and challenges and issues of Black communities. Yes, we need to raise awareness quickly. We need to do an analysis, but at the conference, we want to move into action. So a lot of the inclination at these 2 days is to be able to say, conference to what end? We're not coming here and talking about rehashing what we know. We're actually interested about the next 5-10 years. How do we move the needle? And the particular 4 sessions that we're offering at the conference will allow participants to actually make sense of some of the things that we need to do collectively. So yes, we have a great lineup of players there, and I'm happy to talk about some of them, but it's a combination of, community leaders, sector leaders, government leaders, and we're so happy and honored that 2 elders are going to open the conference for us. An African elder, Elder Sifo Kwaku will be able to join us and open the conference with his blessings. And we have an indigenous elder from up in Nipisiguin First Nation, Elder Perry McLeod Shabonas Janizik, who would be with us also at the conference. So it's both an opportunity for us to pause and reflect, but also to be firm and courageous enough to say we need to act on a number of streams going forward.
That's fantastic, and I loved everything you said. But one of the things I really got excited about is the whole aspect of highlighting elders. And I don't know, I mentioned this story to a number of people, and this happened in 2020, folks. I had the opportunity back, I guess, around February to go and share, because I don't like to speak. I like to share at a conference that was being held by the Social Service Division of the Northwest Territories. And they were doing a total rework of their social service delivery to their frontline staff. 3-day thing. And I was humbled to come up and share about how to engage with Indigenous fathers. That's a whole other conversation here. I still get very emotional, humble about it. But one of the things I loved at that conference, the start of every conference and every conference day and the end of every conference day, they had an elder saying a prayer.
Yeah. I mean, you and I should talk. I've done some work with our brothers and sisters up in Cinco Counties, the Chippewas of Rama First Nation, where in 2013 it was. I co-chaired actually a conference with a young Aboriginal leader from Saskatchewan on Indigenous and non-Indigenous Canada. So we're excited about the possibility of having an Indigenous elder opening as the first person opening the conference on Wednesday.
Yeah, I learned just that point alone that was a huge learning point. And they had one day during the conference, they had a 2-hour session where they had Indigenous elders sharing their experiences of parenting. Wow.
And I think, Dr. Vibe, we within the Black community and our allies in the various racialized communities and the general public, we have our marching orders in terms of what we need to do in the context of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission recommendations. And I think as treaty people ourselves, we need to be able to say, here's concretely what we are going to commit to in terms of personal change, organizational leadership within the community and the country at large.
So high level for those people, and we're going to show the link in just a few moments for people to register. Can you just give a general sense of what people should be expecting during these 2 afternoons?
It's so true, and I think the what we are doing now, we're inviting into the space the Anti-Racism Directorate at the Ontario government, and as I have said earlier on, and as many know, this important directorate in the Ontario government, the Anti-Racism Directorate, through the 2017 anti-racism legislation is mandated in terms of supporting those sectors like justice and education and child welfare and other sectors in the collection of race-based data. And we know, all of us and a lot of leaders in the Black community, in the Black community, health community, and other sectors in our community have been overemphasizing again and again the value of data. If we don't track data, we don't know how we're going to make the improvement. So there will be a session where the anti-racism directors would be really walking us through the journey of where they have been. And it's almost like it's a progress update. And that will give us an opportunity to really have some good discussion and conversation about the progress that's been made and the challenges that are there. And where do we go from here? So that's one important session. Another session that's happening again, inviting the Anti-Racism Directorate, is we wanted to have an overview of their journey. You know, there is base data is one through their data strategy, but there are other things that the Anti-Racism Directorate is mandated into it. So that's an opportunity for us to be able to directly hear from the Assistant Deputy Minister and the Director in ARD about that. Again, that's an opportunity to have a conversation, an insightful conversation between community and stakeholders and the Anti-Racism Directorate. A couple of other sessions that we are excited about is we're saying it's time for us to actually look at bringing municipalities and cities together. So there is a session where we're inviting our friends and brothers and sisters at the City of Toronto, the Confronting Anti-Black Racism Unit. As you know, they have done a lot of amazing work over the last years. You know, Toronto is a great example, not only in this country, in North America, in terms of really advancing the work of doing something meaningful on anti-Black racism. Yeah, and City Council in December 2017 has approved the 5-year plan, which has 22 recommendations and 80 actions. So Toronto is going to share some lessons learned of their journey. What are some of the issues and challenges that they have faced, and where are they in terms of the remaining journey that they have? We have the City of Brampton that has recently launched an anti-Black racism unit with a focus on economic empowerment and culture and heritage. The City of Hamilton, which is also embarking on a process of looking at anti-racism and so on. The City of Ottawa, which has launched last year or in a similar endeavor, some concrete work there. So among these 4 cities, we'll be able to have a dialogue about what is the municipal lens to really advance in the fight against anti-Black racism. How can we take this fight across Canada? And so we're excited about this session because it was going to open up the way for us to bring other municipalities after the conference and being able to say what are some of the things that we can do to amplify some of the work that Toronto is doing and be of support to those that are, so to speak, in a startup mode to address the fight against anti-Black racism with intention and attention, if you want. Yeah. The last session that we have, which is an amazing session, is bringing allies and sector leaders together. You know, we have folks from OCASI, the Urban Racial Relations. We have, you know, Color of Poverty. We have our friends at the Alliance for Healthier Communities. We have United Way. And the whole idea of this session is how do we collectively advance this work? You know, we're openly saying we cannot successfully fight anti-Black racism without paying attention to anti-Indigenous racism or other forms of racism, whether it's Islamophobia or homophobia or all those dimensions of diversity, you know, hate and other forms of hate that we have there. So it's an opportunity for us to really be in conversation with allies and say, hey, what are some concrete things that we can do to advance this collective agenda? So I'm excited and pleased that we have a number of those leaders joining us at this conference. The other things that are happening in this conference, we're also pleased to have Minister Jones and her Deputy Minister Richardson from the Ontario government joining us and bringing welcoming remarks. I know my team has created in the conference, because this is virtual, opportunities for meaningful networking and engagement also in between. So excited about what we're offering and bringing. And my hope is by day 2, we'll have to our own sanity and our own, you know.
we gotta get to the start first, Emmanuel. With all the prep we're doing, we gotta just make sure we get to the start.
I'm confident we will. What I was about to say, my friend, is that we want to make sure by end of day 2, we are conclusively addressing the question conference to attend, that we have identified some concrete next steps for continuing the fight against anti-Black racism. Because as we indicated in one of our tweets, we said the fight against anti-Black racism, it's not only the Black community fight, it's Canada's fight. It's the fight of this country. Absolutely. And that's why we're bringing allies to this conference. That's why we're bringing governments. That's why we're bringing, municipalities here. And I'm excited about, we've been talking a lot in NABC that our problems are generational in nature. They are complex, that we cannot just continue spending our energy just treating the tip of the iceberg, the symptoms. It's time for us to really work with everybody, allies and governments and Black community leaders and phase leaders, corporate leaders, to really use this approach that we're calling the Black ecosystem approach. We need to bring everybody to work together to really address the underlying cause of our challenge. And that's why this conference is important, because learning and having courageous conversations is such central to this endeavor of change.
You've covered all, because I was going to ask you a question and you've answered the question. So I'm not going to go there, but I will ask this question. And this is not, as you know, I do a lot of these, and I have a fairly large community in the United States. So as we wind down here, because we need to get some rest, because we got a crazy next few days ahead of us. Plus you got family too. What are the biggest challenges you see for Black Canada? And what are the biggest opportunities you see for Black Canada? I was also going to ask, how do you feel this conference can address them? But you've already said that, what you would want. But what are some of the biggest challenges you see for Black Canada? And what are some of the biggest opportunities you see for Black Canada?
Thanks for that question, Dr. Vibe. I think the biggest challenge, I keep saying this to folks as commonsensical as it may sound, it's the biggest challenge that we have is a mindset challenge. I'm always concerned that our Black leaders get lost in the trees rather than stepping back and looking at the forest. Yeah. And so the biggest challenge is one of the mindset, because if we get the right mindset, and to do that, we have to provide both support to Black Canada, but also we have to provide challenge. And I know there is a lot of leadership, servant and transformative leadership within the Black community that is able to step up to the plate. So I think we're making progress. We have more and more of our leadership, moving away from tinkering to really looking at bold approaches for transformation. To do that, we need to be able to have courageous conversations among ourselves, but do it in such a way that pays attention to the 3 principles that I always bring in these types of conversations. One is we need to be able to amplify what's working. And there's a lot of stuff that's working. We must amplify what's working. And the second principle for me that guides some of this work is, if it's not working, let's work together to course correct with empathy and care. We need to do this with empathy and care without really diminishing, the leadership and presence in our communities. And the third principle that guides our work is for all of us should be, when it's critically missing and we know it's needed, let's be bold to introduce it. Let's be bold to introduce it. And I think, you know, if we shift the mindset, then, you know, we're going to realize that, in fact, it's not the lack of resources. And I remind people that, you know, money is a good servant, but at the same time, money is a bad, is a bad leader or a master in terms of creating more problems. So I think if we have the right mindset, then we'll be able to really come together and realize that we cannot throw money at the tip of the iceberg. We cannot continue doing programs and services decade after decade, much as they are needed, without underlining causes being addressed. Our problems are generational. They are not going to fade away overnight because we're spending a lot of resources on programs and services. We need to address the structural reasons why we are in this predicament as Black communities. So if we shift the mindset of our leaders, I think we will have the capacity to be able to address some of these issues. What opportunities that we have in front of us? We have many opportunities, but the most important for me at the moment, again, commonsensical as it sounds, there is increased goodwill on many of the stakeholders in the ecosystem, including Black leaders, our allies out there, funders and government. I have never seen such a goodwill to really work together. So if we shift the mindset, if we make use of the goodwill that we have at the moment, I feel strongly that we are on the right path to really create the conditions for long-term change. I always talk about the value for us as elders to really pave the way for our young Black leaders to lead in our communities. We need to start thinking about, if there's anything that we need to learn from our indigenous communities where they plan for generations to come, let's at least plan for one generation. Let's plan for the time that we are not around ourselves and lay a good foundation. And to be able to do that, we need to be, as leaders, we need to be led by humility. And realize that, we are an expression of time and space. We are here and we are not here. And that the work needs to continue. And unless we prepare and invest in our Black young leaders, we won't be able to be there. So those are the two things, mindset and goodwill, both as a challenge and the opportunity of the moment for me.
Beautiful. And one of the things I always say is where the mind goes, the person follows.
So true.
So, Emmanuel, I want to say thank you for taking time out of your positive, productive schedule, out of your family, out of times where I call you on a Sunday when I shouldn't call you on a Sunday.
My brother, it's always a pleasure. Yeah, it's always a pleasure, and I thanks and I'm sorry we have also extended your day, but
no, this is no problem. This is not work for us. This is our passion.
Okay, listen, my brother, I really want to take the moment also to really say that as I said in the intro, that my team and I are always not only inspired and impressed by your energy and your dedication, but I think, Dr. Vibe, there is a good heart there. So thank you for who you are and what you bring to the community. So thanks a lot for your presence too.
I received that. Thank you so much. For people who want more information, we're putting up on the screen. That is the conference, Advancing the Fight Against Anti-Black Racism, Awareness, Analysis, and Action, happening this Wednesday and this Thursday from 12 p.m. to about 4:30 p.m. Eastern time. You'll see that man. You'll see this man. You're going to see a whole bunch of people on there. So there is the website address. I don't care where you're watching this. You will benefit if you take time to watch this. Hey, some people want to find out about Black Canada. This is your opportunity. Some people want to find out about Canada. This is your opportunity. Some people want to find out about Black people around the world. This is your opportunity. If you saw the list of heavy hitters that are coming through your screen over those 8.5, 9 hours, you're going to be impressed, because Emmanuel would not be behind something that was not quality, educational, and successional which I mean succession planning. So please check it out. If you want to find out about his organization, the Network for the Advancement of Black Communities, there is a website there. They do fantastic stuff. They are very good people. So we're going to end it off there because, Emmanuel, I got to get some rest because we got to find out how to work the system for the next few days.
We will, my brother. And okay.
My name is Dr. Vibe. I'm host and producer of the award-winning Dr. Vibe Show, the home of Epic Conversations. I'm the host of Epic Conversations, 2018 Innovation Award winner given out by the Canadian Ethnic Media Association. I also once a month host conversations for fathers that are co-sponsored by Dad Central and Dove Men Care. And just an FYI, follow me on social media because we're hosting a conversation on Thursday evening, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 5 p.m. Pacific, about being a father, being a separated father or divorced father, and raising your children. Going to be a good conversation. So follow me on social media. So here we go. If you want to find out about me, the best place to do is go on my website. Here's the website address right there if you want to check me out. As always, I end my conversations by saying this: live your life as a dream. If you can dream it, you can make it. Sometimes you have to get smaller to get stronger. Block assumptions, then aim bigger, aim better, aim higher, aim wider. And as we say back in Jamaica, walk good. Thank you for watching. God bless. Peace be well. Keep the faith. We love you all. And give yourself grace.